Sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay, good. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We're here for a press conference after our Board of Trustees voted to put a voter approval tax rate election on the ballot. So we'll have a series of speakers, including our Superintendent Matthias Segura and our Board President Arthi Singh. And then we'll hear from Education Austin, from a teacher, and also from a parent. So with that, I will turn it over to our Superintendent Matthias Segura.
Thank you. Thank you to our Board of Trustees for this monumental show of support for the administration's plan to invest in Austin ISD. We are the largest provider of public education in Central Texas. 81% of the students in Austin come to Austin ISD, and we have a responsibility to educate our students in a way that aligns with our community values. This requires a large system with over 10,500 employees, over 550 buses, and over 116 schools. And as our community knows, the cost of almost everything has increased over the past several years. And we are no different. Utilities, insurance, other fixed costs, as well as compensation have all continued to rise. We serve over 73,000 students. And in a period where urban school districts have had challenges with declining enrollment, here at Austin ISD, we've remained stable. In fact, as of today, we are 300 students above our projection given this point last year at the start of the year. And as we start this school year, we are 97% staffed, and attrition between Title I and non-Title I schools is less than 1%. And Austin ISD has all the markers of reliable and strong financial practices. We have maintained a AAA bond rating, which allows us to maximize our investments in our schools. Additionally, Austin ISD received a superior rating of 94 out of 100 on TEA's first rating, our first rating scorecard. And we know that state funding has not kept pace with the rising cost to educate. In fact, the state has not increased the basic student allotment since 2019, despite maintaining multi-billion-dollar surplus. And on top of not increasing the basic student allotment, mandates continue to come from the state legislature. Most recently, or an example might be HB 3 in the expansion of our police department. Additionally, Austin ISD is the highest payer into recapture, and we recently, just less than a week and a half ago, sent our payment of $699 million to the state. And we also acknowledge that the state is not sending all recapture dollars back into public schools. So before our voters head to the polls on November 1st, I can assure you that our team will leave no stone unturned when we look to reduce expenses. Last year, we made $30 million in cuts to non-campus-based spending, and while those cuts were painful, we were able to minimize those impacts. And we're gonna continue to cut and refine. And as President Singh mentioned earlier this afternoon, for every dollar that we ask for voters, we'll be cutting $2. And over the course of 3 years, we'll be cutting close to 10% of our operating budget. And prior to the November election, we are looking at every aspect of how we do business and identifying opportunities to streamline operations, to reduce costs, and our budget, and stabilize our budget for years to come. And if approved by our voters, this spending will allow us to allocate resources to higher positions that provide direct support to the classroom with instructional coaches or content interventionists or other key areas, including mental health, all supporting our academic system and ensuring that our students get what they need from the public education system. And so I want to say thank you to our community for supporting this administration. We have accomplished a lot in a very short period of time together. And I want to say thank you again to our Board of Trustees for working together and aligning toward this next step. And now I'd like to invite President Singh up to share a couple words. Of course.
All right, good evening, everyone. Everyone excited for school starting tomorrow? Awesome. Yes. It is a happy, happy day. So thank you, Superintendent Segura. I really want to just start by saying how proud I am of our district and what we have accomplished this past year. So the class of 2023 four-year state longitudinal graduation rate is 93%, 93.1% to be exact, which is very high compared to the rest of the state. In addition, our SAT and ACT scores exceed the state average. Our SAT scores exceeded the state average. Our ACT scores exceeded both state and national averages. Also, our latest state data shows that the district's percentage of economically disadvantaged students generating the college career and military readiness outcomes bonus funding is 50% higher than the state. AISD's rate is about 14%, and the state rate is 9%. We still have a ways to go, but it is so important, and this really demonstrates the work that our entire system is putting into our students to ensure that they leave AISD with the skills and the wherewithal to succeed in their careers. Austin ISD's 2024 STAR performance at the master's performance level met or exceeded the state rate in all grade levels and subject areas, except for Math 6, Math 7, and Algebra 1. We still have a lot of work to do, and our board just recently passed a scorecard that really demonstrates what our academic student outcomes we are prioritizing over the next 5 years. I'm so grateful for the support of Austin, of our public schools. As our superintendent likes to say, Austin's success lies in AISD's success. And when we see our community show up for AISD wherever we turn, we see our award-winning PTAs are inclusive and student-centered. Our local healthcare, technology, and hospitality industries offer life-changing internships. UT and ACC create pathways for high-need industry certifications and free college credit for our students. And our beloved local organizations offer rich learning experiences and vital mental health services for our students. AISD belongs to our city, and as Superintendent Segura mentioned, 81% of school-age children in our boundaries choose AISD, and that is very unusual for a large urban school district. Because we have such a strong symbiotic relationship with our community, I think it is crucial that we give them the information they need as they head to the polls in November. So we know you will carefully consider this tax rate, and I ask you to remember the following. AISD maintains the lowest tax rate in Central Texas, and we have not raised taxes for instruction in over 15 years. Last year, the Texas legislature passed a state budget that left billions of dollars in surplus and did not provide enough additional funding for Texas public schools, our students, or our teachers to cover rising costs and new state mandates. And that's how we find ourselves in an even tighter financial situation. And we're not alone. Districts across Central Texas and around the state are dealing with similar or larger shortfalls and budget cuts. Texas is currently $4,000 behind the national average in per pupil spending, ranking it among the bottom 10 states in per student funding. With no anticipated new state funding in 2024 and uncertainty about school funding in the next legislative session, AISD must consider how to respond to fulfill our mission while addressing our budget deficit. AISD is committed to making decisions in collaboration with our community and those affected, focusing on our student experience, teaching, and learning at the center of our decision-making. We make the decision to bring the ballot proposition to voters, and so have many of our peer school districts. Some of these other local school districts, including Manor ISD and San Marcos CISD, also have tax rate elections on the November ballot. And Round Rock ISD, Leander ISD, Pflugerville ISD, Lockhart ISD, Lake Travis ISD, and Eanes ISD have passed similar tax rate elections in the past 6 years to help provide additional funds to their schools. So AISD would receive about an additional $41 million if voters were to approve a tax rate election, which comes to about $550 per student. And for every dollar that we net, we are actually committing to making $2 in cuts. So we are doing, I believe, our part. So an increased tax rate would increase the district's recapture payment. We currently send about 49% of our budget to the state, and if voters approve the new tax rate, it will go up to about 51%, which is still below where we were a few years ago, which was 53%. And that was before the state began implementing property tax compression. So in closing, we really do ask you to carefully consider this tax ratification measure and how it will affect our district and our students. It has been difficult to make the cuts we've made so far, and it's difficult to bring this proposition to our voters. I want to thank our board for really carefully considering this and just sharing the commitment to make sure every student in AISD succeeds. I want to thank Superintendent Segura for your leadership through these tremendous challenges, and I will now pass it to the President of Education Austin, Ken Zarefis. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ken Zarefis. I'm President of Education Austin. I have the great privilege of representing thousands of teachers and school employees, bus drivers, custodians, food service workers, TAs across the district, the people that will be directly impacted by this tax election. I've been in and around the district since 1998. I've seen a lot of superintendents, I've seen a lot of board, a lot of trustees, a lot of elections, a lot of new programs, a lot of this and a lot of that. This is a moment that is unlike any moment that we've kind of faced. I've also seen a state that continues to drain public education, continues to refuse to fund the very institution that prepares our future, that takes care of our kids. In spite of a state that continues to do that one legislative session after another, that refuses to pay for your kids and my kids in school, we have been forced into a position where we must make a decision. That we must, regardless of what this state does or doesn't do in this legislative session, we as a community must come together and say, we love our schools. We love our kids, and we're going to do everything we can to do that. This is not a burden. This is an opportunity to support our children. This is an opportunity to provide them the schools that as parents, that I'm one, that we expect for our kids, and the schools our kids deserve. To do otherwise, to suggest we shouldn't put it before the voters, to suggest that we shouldn't support this Vader is a disrespect to all of the employees of this district. The 5 members that chose to join me tonight, the night before they go back to school and are teaching, they're here. They're supporting this effort to see that their kids and their classes get the support that they need. This Vader is without question one of the most important decisions this district has made in a very long time. And as having the great opportunity to represent so many wonderful workers in this district, I can tell you tonight, I would much rather talk to a taxpayer, because remember, the median house, $650,000, which most of our teachers are not in, and most of our bus drivers are not in, but that house is only $34 a month, $1 a day. So I ask you, are our kids worth that? Are they worth $1 a day? They sure are. And I would rather talk to a taxpayer about that $1 a day than to talk to a teacher or a TA or a custodian or a front office personnel that just lost their job because we didn't have enough money to pay for them and they had to be cut. This district and this board made the hard decision, no. It's an easy decision to support our kids because we love them, to support our teachers and our employees because they make this happen every day. If we don't do it, shame on us. But we've got an administration, a district, and workers that are doing it every day. I'm proud to be part of this. I'm proud to represent the members of Education Austin and to work collaboratively with a board and a superintendent that get it. Let's go out and vote yes on this Vader. Let's support our kids and show them how much we love them. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Karen Reyes. I am a proud member of Education Austin and even prouder special education teacher at Galindo Elementary. So on the eve of back to school, we are here. I could be at home preparing things, for tomorrow, doing my laundry, things that we are all putting off. But instead I'm here because this is such an important thing that's happening, right? And the fact is, do we wish we were not in this situation? Of course. Do we wish that the state actually did their job and fully funded public education? Heck, I'll even take adequately funded public education. Yes, that's not happening. And so we're in a moment where right now, we, the people of Austin, have to take care of our own because the state is not doing it. And it is a hard ask for the people of Austin, but I actually don't really think it is that hard. The educators all around the state, the city, the nation, we're always asked to do more with less, to find the resources, to use everything at our disposal to teach to the varying needs of our students, and we do it. This is just another tool at our disposal to be able to take care of those varying needs. And, at the core of this is, do we trust our communities to take care of us like we take care of their students, of their kids? I do, because I firmly believe that the people of Austin who have always had our back know that this isn't just us asking for money for frivolous things. Trust me, if it was, I have a lot to say about the new laptops that we got. Okay, I'm just saying, but it's not. What's happening is this money would go for services that are impacting our students. I work in special education, and there was a moment in the summer, and even before the summer, we were all panicking, thinking we weren't going to have enough staff to cover all the needs of our students, be it teachers or teaching assistants. And, I would not be able to do my job without my teaching assistants, and they deserve to be paid what they are worth. And they are worth a lot at our schools. And, there's moments where we think, are the staffings that we have right now enough? Do we have the adequate resources? And if at any point you have a doubt and say no, then what are we doing wrong? We are not doing anything wrong. We're making cuts as a district. We're doing everything possible to do more with less. The state is the one that's doing things wrong. And so now it comes out to, are the people of Austin going to invest, because this is an investment, in our students, in our staff, in our communities, in the future of this city? Do we trust the voters of Austin to say, yeah, our kids are worth $1 a day? I think so. And I think that putting this on the ballot so that the voters of Austin have that say is so important. And I really think that that's all it comes down to. We trust you. Do you trust us? Now let's make this happen together. Thank you.
Good evening, fellow Austinites. I'm here with actually my daughters who are elementary students at AISD, and they asked me, Mommy, are you nervous? I'm like, yes, I am. But you know what? We do hard things. We show up for our community, and we show our children how to take care of each other and how to take care of our community. And if you ask them how much it's worth for them to have a teacher in class, they would give you the highest number they could ever possibly give. And I'm here to say what we already know. We desperately need more money for our schools. There's a lot of us that are advocating, and we advocate hard, and we are going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to tell our state, give us the money that we raise for our students, for our future, for their education. I'm asking to please do this now because we need it now. But then come join me and come join the fight and come make sure that they give us the money that our children deserve. I want to remind the parents how it feels when it's like, okay, our children are going back to school. Are they going to get a teacher? Are they going to have a long-term sub? That worry of like, are we going to be the ones where the teacher gets burnt out or finds a better job that pays more? And you can't blame them for making sure they provide for their family. So it's our turn to step up and to show our kids how we take care of our community and our teachers. Our teachers are asking us and saying this is what they want, this is what they need. And they're trusting us like we trust them every day to drop our children off. And I absolutely think they're worth it. So I hope that you guys understand that this is an investment for our students' education and our future. The superintendent always says, better schools, better Austin. Better school, better Austin, but let's take it beyond that. Better schools, better Texas. Like, we need all our students to be funded. And like I said, go home, ask your children, how much do you think your teacher deserves as a raise? And I'm telling you, they will give you the biggest number that they could possibly find. I hope y'all find it in your hearts to do the right thing, and it's time for the adults to do the right thing for our children. Thank you. Good evening.
All right, so that concludes our speakers. If y'all have any questions, I think whoever is best equipped to answer that can step up. We also have our interim CFO, Katrina Montgomery, here in case you have any numbers questions.
I have a numbers question.
Okay.
So what is the deficit right now at this?
So the board passed a deficit of $78 million, and this is with if the Vader is included in that as well.
The average Austin homeowner, how is this going to affect them if it passes?
So I think we've heard. No. You were coming this way. Okay. So what we noticed is you've heard people say that it's $34 per month. So the average home value is $553,000. So that's what it'll be, $34 per month for our average homeowner. So if your home value is less than $553,000, it will be less than $34 per year.
Can I just ask a follow-up
Per month.
question?
Per month.
Sorry, can I just ask a follow-up question on the Vader question? So right now, the budget includes,
Yes.
if the Vader doesn't pass, what would the deficit be? And is Austin ISD is considering some, how would that cut number change if the Vader doesn't pass?
Well, so one of the things we've been very transparent about is the buildup of the potential components within the Vader, right? And so we've had multiple presentations where we've communicated to the trustees that about half of that will go towards compensation and strategic hiring. Instructional coaches, supporting our educators to ensuring that they have what they need to meet the needs of our students. Content interventionists to ensure that our students are receiving the interventions they need to get onto grade level. And so that's about 50% of a little bit over $40 million. And the difference actually goes to address increased fixed cost, right, which directly ties to the budget deficit. And so to answer it directly, it'd be $20 million more in cuts that we'd have to consider. One of the things that we've talked to the board about, and we actually just had a retreat about this, or a work session about this last Thursday, is the fact that we're going through this process regardless, right? Because we need to ensure that our limited resources go to where they're needed most. And over the course of many years, the school district has invested in things that are important, right? They align with our community values. There are things that we believe our students need to have, but when you look at them, we have to think about providing those services differently and recognizing that any impact will have an adverse impact if we don't do it correctly or thoroughly. And so we're going through a process now. Our goal is to have recommendations before the board in October, really end of September, but October. We have a committee that's been developed, and we're supporting them with providing different kind of strategies and considerations. You've heard me say before that we have to rethink how we work if we're going to be able to get to where we need to be. We can't cut our way into a balanced budget. So because of the way that our fiscal year works, we would develop the plan. We would see a significant amount of those reductions in this fiscal year, but really, we want to be very thoughtful. We want to communicate with those that may be impacted. We want to make sure that our community understands what may be coming. And so the idea is that we'd identify a certain amount in this fiscal year, about another $40 million in the upcoming fiscal year, but to be brought into and the implementation plan refined over the spring semester. And then in 25, 26, you'd see that take place, and then the difference after that. So that's why we say it's a 3-year process. So some will be this year, $40 million next year, and then the difference the year after.
If the Vader is successful, nearly $8 million would go toward compensation, but it's not an across. Can you talk about either the number or percentage of employees that will see an increase as a result of a success, and also what those raises are going to be?
Yeah, so is Brandy here? Is she behind me? Oh, Brandy's here. So Brandy, our Chief Talent Strategy, will certainly be able to help me answer these. But I do want to point out that we were very, I would say, precise in how we built up this this compensation package. So the first thing that we did is we went and partnered with TASB to identify where we were off market. One of the things that we often talk about here in Austin ISD is that, if you're early on in your tenure as an educator, we're pretty competitive when you think of other Central Texas school districts. Where we often lose our educators is later on, right? Year 10, 15, 20. And what we know, those are incredible educators. They're people that know our systems, they know our students, they know our school communities, but we're losing them. And so this compensation plan is very strategic in not just kind of lifting the whole, but really considering those staff that have been with us the longest. And so that is kind of one thing that's pretty unique about this compensation package. The other thing is it does include an increase to all classified staff that might not be getting a compensation adjustment based on market value. The last couple of years, we've had significant strides. We were at, I think, a little less than $14.75. Then we went to $16. Now we're up to $20 for base for classified staff. This will actually increase a minimum of 25 cents on top of the 20. And again, that is for those individuals that may not already be getting a market adjustment. So I'll ask Brandy to speak specifically to the numbers in each category, but just want to kind of give you the process for how we got to this point.
Good evening. Brandy Hosick, Chief of Talent Strategy. So I'm going to give you ballpark figures because I don't have them sitting in front of me at this moment. They are online. Please go to our FAQs and see that. Approximately almost 70% of our staff will see adjustments. And to be very honest, as we all know, we are an incredibly competitive market for teachers, and we have to be able to remain in the market lead as much as we can. We know that we have a lot of room to make up, but to our friends' points from Education Austin, it's not just teachers. It is also teachers and instructional support staff and non-instructional support staff and all of the people that make the world go round on a campus for our kids. Certainly our custodians, our food service, but upwards of 70% will see an adjustment. And those instructional staff, for example, that group, I think we're probably closer to 90% of them seeing an adjustment. So really sinking the dollars in where it counts on our campuses.
And the other thing I would add, because I think it's important that we communicate this transparently, is that the compensation does not include positions that are executive director and above. It's really for those that are closest to the classroom, those that are really in the work. Just to make sure that's clearly communicated. Of course.
Sorry. Over the summer, we've seen the budget deficit change. Could you talk a little bit about how we got from a number challenging but smaller than where we are now? Some of the factors that went into that.
Yeah, so I'll definitely start that. Katrina, our interim chief financial officer, will probably need to provide some additional details. But one of the things that we need to do a better job of is communicating, the different assumptions that are used to build up a budget and when we actually receive those assumptions or those numbers from any outside agency or any outside report. And so over the course of the spring semester, as we have, we start the budgeting process, and we will continue to start the budgeting process earlier and earlier and earlier, right, to make sure we have enough runway. But if we start in November, December, In the early spring, we began to receive information, but if in January, February, and March, early on, we're kind of using our assumptions based in estimates based on either historical trends, what we believe we're going to see, but it's not until the different entities like the Travis County Tax Appraisal District begins to release information to us, then thereby can we kind of baseline that assumption and then refine our numbers. So I will say that a lot of what you saw over the spring semester and into the summer were really those adjustments. Small percentages times big numbers are big numbers, right? And that is the honest truth. You know, when you look at growth rates in Travis County for the last many years, they've been, you know, above 10%. You know, when you estimate 6% and it comes in lower, you know, it's a reasonable assumption to make in the budgeting process, but when it's under, we have to adjust accordingly. So that is really what you saw over the course of the spring and summer semester. As we move forward, we're going to be very, very clear to our trustees, to our community. You know, when we are here at this point in the process, we still don't have certainty around these assumptions. And these assumptions, they fluctuate by 1% or 2%, could have this type of impact on our budget. But that's really a lot of what you saw. I'm going to, Katrina, if there's anything else you'd like to add?
No, I agree.
But that's a big part of it. So.
I guess just what would y'all's message be to voters who obviously a lot of voters to swallow that, like, most of it is going to be going to the state. I know you guys, but can you just talk a little bit more issue that voters might be considering, that only some of that money will be going to the district?
Yeah, I'll start, and I'll probably have some of our partners here maybe speak to it. Our collaborators should say. You know, one of the things that was said off the dais that I want to make sure gets communicated is, you know, we are currently, for every dollar that we have, 49% or 49 cents goes to the state. After, if the voters do approve this, then it would move to 51%. And so given our overall operating budget, it's actually not a huge percent increase. And then to, I think, Trustee Boswell's point off the dais and to some other folks here, you know, several years ago, we're actually much higher. And so it's one of those things that is a reflection of the system that we're in. We're doing everything to ensure that we are the most efficient system that we can be and that our limited resources, given the infinite need that we have, are allocated thoughtfully and equitably. And unfortunately, that means that we have to go through a difficult process at this period of time regarding cuts. But at the end of the day, you know, overall, it's not a significant movement percent-wise, and it's still lower than, again, we were a couple years ago. I don't know, Trustee or President Singer, anybody else would like to weigh in on that?
Yes, I wanted to add one more thing that is a bit of good news actually related to recapture, if you can believe it. But one of the things that actually decreases our recapture payment is increasing our enrollment. And I heard today, am I allowed to share this?
I think I already, yeah.
Okay. That what we're doing in AISD is working. For the first time in the 5 years I've been on the dais, our enrollment has actually increased this year, which is really something to celebrate. We are doing the right thing, and I think that's why it really makes sense to allow the voters to decide if what we're offering is worth investing in as we continue down this path. But this is a time where, like during COVID, we actually did, like pretty much every school district in the state, we lost some students. The last 2 years, we've been very stable with our enrollment. I think we only lost like less than 1% of our enrollment in the last 2 years. This year, I think we have about 300 more, is that right?
So at this point, last year at the start of school, we're 300 students ahead is the way to.
Okay, so you got that. Okay, so we're 300 students ahead of where we were at this point last year. And I know there are other large districts who are still struggling. I read about one district today that actually has 9,000 fewer students than they did this time last year. So what we're doing is working, and I'm really proud of the effort. So that does help reduce our recapture payment. But I do want to invite our Secretary Boswell. She is our resident expert on all things recapture and advocacy.
Lucky me. Yeah, thank you all for those questions. I think I'm the chair of our Intergovernmental Relations Committee, also on the board of TASB. So I spend time at the Capitol and spend time with trustees from across the state from a lot of recapture districts. Recapture is a fact. We belong to an organization called the Texas Schools Coalition that represents recapture districts across the state. Advocacy is a piece of that, this advocacy and awareness. As Trustee Singh said, President Singh, our recapture is down about almost more than $250 million from its high. We're down about $277 million this year, approximately, I believe. And yes, if this tax rate passes, our recapture will go up again, not as high as it had been, but it will go up. Recapture began as a way to make sure that every district in the state had a fair share of funding. We do not have less money as a district because of recapture. Everyone has the same inadequate amount under the formulas. We do pay much more for the money we get. And as Superintendent Segura said, or maybe it was Trustee Singh, not all of that recapture ends up going to schools as the law originally intended. A huge part of the effort at the same time that we're inviting our voters to weigh in on this is advocacy. And between our adopted priorities here in Austin ISD and the priorities that TASB membership statewide plans to approve in September, we have many that relate to recapture and to funding, not only an increase in the basic allotment. We have invited, one priority is to invite the legislature to do a study of the cost, the impact of the cost of recapture on housing affordability in our state. That's a major issue at the legislature right now. We've asked for an early payment discount that used to exist. You pay your bills early in your real life, you pay less. That used to happen with our recapture payment. And when you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, a small discount can make a big difference. That's money that could stay in our district. We've also asked for the legislature to consider the student population that is served in districts that pay recapture. Eanes is also a recapture district. Del Valle is a recapture district. We have neighbors who are, Lago Vista, neighbors who are moving into being recapture. Our student populations don't all look the same, and that should be something that's considered, especially because housing costs are deeply impacted by this. So we're fighting this on many, many fronts, and again, we invite our community to join us. As Margarita shared, it takes all of us, and it takes people across the state to work on this. Thank you.
Last question. Okay, last one. I just kind of wanted to speak a little bit. Voters who might be hesitant about this, they're seeing a property tax rate increase now that the school district is asking for how dire the situation is and what kind of.
So I will start. I'm going to be very precise in my response. So about 3 weeks ago, we presented to the trustees a list of different things that the district AISD believes in and has funded over a period of time, right? Included in this list were, different mental health supports. We had, lots of things that when people saw the list, they just were surprised, like nurses, lots of things on there. And one of the things that we know is that many of those things are not legally required, but we know that they are needed to support the educational experience of our students, and it aligns with our values. And so as we go through this process and we look at different cost reduction strategies, the more that we have to cut, the closer we encroach into the educational experience of our students. And so we can't sit here and precisely tell you, by cutting $30 million, it's going to be this, 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 and this, right? We have a process that we're going to go through with our community and with our trustees and with our staff, but we have to make some movement. We have to figure out a way to provide the best that we can with limited resources that we have. But I can tell you we cut $30 million out of the central administration's operating budget this last fiscal year. And it was roughly 10% of the central administration's budget, right? So it was 30 million out of 300 million, essentially. And that was felt. There are things that we are going to have to work through, and we're trying to do the best we can to support our students in every way possible. But it is challenging, and there are going to be things that we discuss that no one would ever want to discuss. It's just part of the process we have to go through to be transparent and to do it in an equitable, thoughtful way. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. As the union and the district, cuts come to our folks. And, I started in this role in 2010 and 11, where 1,100 teachers were terminated after a massive cut of public funding at the state level. We never want to go there ever again. It was a nightmare. It was the single most horrific thing that happened in this district in my time around it. What I'm encouraged by is that we have an administration that has brought us into the discussion and wants to know what workers' priorities are, so that when we start talking about this thing, we're not just looking at the district and the board aren't just looking at a shiny object with a big dollar figure on it and get rid of it, but being thoughtful about how we approach this, because we're going to be very thoughtful about how we protect workers, of how we make sure that the people really delivering the education, from the bus driver driving a kid to school, to the TA that's assisting the teacher, to the food service worker that's feeding our children. I'm a dad. These things have to happen. And so I have faith that we continue to work to make these shared priorities. It's going to be a very difficult conversation. There's no doubt about it. But we have to have shared priorities, that the workers, the people that are here tonight, are protected. I'm not working in the district. They are. We've got to protect them. And I think that there's a similar shared priority and value that we're very happy about.
Sorry, my nerves are gone. No, I just wanted to say, somebody asked, what do we tell the people that say that that's a hard pill to swallow? And I kind of want to say respectfully, I'm asking for you to swallow that pill so that our kids don't go without a proper education, because they're our future, and our society is better with them getting a good education. So that's the last thing I want to say.
Yes.
All right, on that note, that concludes our press conference. Everyone have a great first day of school tomorrow, and thank you for coming.